I usually start these off with a thank you. If you think about it, as firefighters, we typically only see people on bad days. Nobody calls us for good days. So the fact that y'all invited me for a good day, nobody seems to be on fire, everybody's heart seems to be currently working. I know how that can change in a fraction of a moment, but for the time being, I thank you very much. We absolutely have recognized in recent years, about the last 10 in the United States Fire Service, that there's far more we can do before a fire than we've ever been able to do after a fire. I say that we not only fight fire, of course, in fact, we fight very few fires compared to what my dad and my granddad and my great-granddad did as firefighters. But having said that, we know that today's fires kill more people, burn hotter and faster than the fires of my dad, granddad, and great-granddad's generations. They used to fight them all day long, multiple fires. But back in those days, particularly the 70s, my daddy always refers to as the highlight of his life. I don't know if y'all remember those, but he does. I will tell you, but back in the 70s, Daddy would tell me he had about 13 minutes from the time they got the call and got on the fire truck to go help somebody before the fire created enough toxic gas and smoke to kill someone. Well, that made me want to do some homework. So one of my college thesis papers was, how long does it take for today's fires to kill somebody? And what we found out, and realistically I can take no credit other than the fact that I just transcribed somebody else's heavy labor, but working with National Institute of Safety and Technology, I learned that in this day and age, because of the things that we use to build that which we use, live with, we only have about 30 seconds from the moment a fire starts before it creates enough toxic gas and chemicals to kill people. Which means the fires that burn today is few and far between that I get to fight here in Bluffton and in our general area, Bluffton and Hardyville, Jasper County. We only average about 25 to 30 fires a year, home fires. But those fires burn hotter and faster and kill more people than my daddy, granddaddy, and great-granddaddy ever had nightmares about. So then we had to ask the question, why? Well, you're sitting on a nice chair. In the 70s when Daddy was a firefighter, he'd tell me, boy, that's a nice wooden chair. Because it was made of what? Wood. Some folks would call the chairs you're sitting on wooden ones too. Not a whole lot of wood in there. In fact, there's a whole lot of plastic, poly. We know that poly and plastic are derivatives of petroleum-based products. From the clothes we wear, to the mattresses we sleep on, to the bowls and the cups and the things we use to subsistize ourselves, it's all made of petroleum-based products that burn hotter, faster, and off-gas more toxic stuff than ever before in the history of mankind. We're killing more people today by fire in their own home than any other two nations on our planet. And I'll go a step further. Not only compare nation to nation, and the U.S. has never been ranked anything but #1. This is not a place where we want to have that blue ribbon. But we've never been in 50 years anywhere but #1 for the number of people who die by fire in their own home. And inside the United States, we take the 50 states and compare them. In South Carolina, in 40 years that they've been comparing states, has never been out of the top 5. And as I live and breathe, as we discuss these statistics right now, we're #1. Last year, we lost 101 people in the state of South Carolina by fire in their own home where they're supposed to feel the safest. That is 101 times that I, as a firefighter, and all of my colleagues failed you and everybody else, but especially those that perished and those of their family. We failed. How is it that for so many years we've known we stink when it comes to losing people in a burning building, and we can't figure out why the heck or how the heck to change that? That's a very sad thing for us. And we work every day in situations like this where we spend time talking to folks, begging for help. It's another thing my daddy and granddaddy would never do. They were proud fellas, and they still are, my daddy anyway. They would never ask for help. But if you hear nothing of what I share with you today, hear this. We need your help, desperately. Because I can't save your life in 30 seconds. Because national average from the time that someone calls 911 to the time there's a police officer, a firefighter, a paramedic in front of that house where they called 911, national average is 6 to 8 minutes. I will brag about Beaufort County, not just Bluffton, but all of Beaufort County is in the 4 to 6 minute range. But that's best case scenario, 3.5 minutes longer than it takes that fire to grow bad enough to kill you. We need your help. So what does that mean? Well, I'll tell you, how many of you pay for insurance, any kind of insurance? Car insurance, auto, medical, whatever it is, right? Every year they want more money for less coverage. Is that a fair statement? Well, I often have great conversations. I think they're great conversations. You might think they're boring conversations, but I like to think I have great conversations with my daddy. I said, Daddy, I said, tell me how much was a smoke alarm back in your day? He said, oh, son, they run about 10, 15 bucks for the really good ones. I said, back in the 70s, that much? He goes, yeah. I said, well, what about a good fire extinguisher? He said, oh, those were cheaper. Those are about $5 to $8. Well, I will tell you, since my daddy was a firefighter, now that I'm a firefighter, there's a life insurance policy that he and I now know costs less than $40 a year. And in both of our careers and all of our homework and research that we've been able to do, there's not been a single person inside the United States boundaries that has died with this life insurance policy at $40 a year. I ask you, would you buy that? Be careful before you shake your head yes. How many of you live in a house that is older than 10 years? And those of you that have lived in that house for more than 10 years, do you know if your smoke alarms, not the batteries, but the entire alarm has ever been replaced? Because I purposely brought smoke alarms that are sealed. This has not been opened. I bought these 2 yesterday in preparation of coming to see you today. As I open this up, every smoke alarm made since 1999 has a birthday on the back of it. Did you know that? So the ones in your ceiling has a birthday. I'm glad to see you have glasses and you might be able to read that. What does it say right in front of my finger there? There's a date. Can you tell me what that date is?
2014, November 7th.
So November 7th, 2014, they're selling 3-year-old, 4-year-old smoke alarms. But point being is every smoke alarm has a birthday on it. Every smoke alarm made since 1999 by federal law has to have a birthday on it. 10 years from that date, you can put a new battery in the alarm. You can push the button and it sounds like it works, but it won't save your life. Because the sniffer, for simplified terms, inside the alarm won't work. Long story short, it has an ionized, for simplified again terms, it's a nuclear, pinpoint amount of nuclear material. Much like the old watches, when you push the button, they would glow on you. They were awesome. I thought that was great as a kid. I don't know. Well, there's a small amount of nuclear material in there that powers the sniffer of a smoke alarm. And after 10 years, like anything else, that power source goes inert or dead. So it sounds like it works, it looks like it works, and people think it works. When the fire happens, it doesn't work. And what I also found out here in the state of South Carolina, where we kill more people per capita than anybody else in fires in their own homes, is that every 10 houses you and I drive by, even in Sun City, every 10 houses I drive by every day, only 2 has working smoke alarms. The key word, working. And even fewer, less than half of 1%, and I don't know how that translates to the number of houses we drive by, but less than half of 1% of homes in the state of South Carolina have a serviceable and working fire extinguisher. The least expensive life insurance policy you can buy for your family. Never in my daddy's career that he's been able to recall, or the research he's done, nor I, have I ever pulled a body out of a burning building that had a working smoke alarm and a working fire extinguisher. 40 bucks. I spent 38, so less than 40 bucks on those 3 items today, or yesterday. And I do that periodically just to make sure I'm not lying to you. If the price goes up, I'll let you know. Yes, sir.
How long will a fire extinguisher last?
Outstanding. This is where I oftentimes get in trouble. In fact, and I'll brag on the gentleman that did it. I give many speeches in this very context and share the very similar information all across Sun City, anywhere I can. And one particular one about a year ago upset the gentleman so much, he went out and bought a fire extinguisher, and he read the paperwork inside the box. And it said, this fire extinguisher is good for 10 years. Well, I had stand, as I stand before you now, and tell you that we, the fire service, I, Lee Levesque, that's my name, happy to give you a business card and stand by my word, recommend they be serviced or replaced every year. Why do I do that? I'll tell you exactly why. The gentleman was upset. He says, well, why are you telling people every year when the manufacturer's paperwork says 10 years? And I'll tell you why. Because one of the manufacturers, not this one, has a recommendation that their extinguishers be serviced or replaced every 3 years. I said, okay, that's the lowest I've seen so far. I said, all right, well, let me do some homework. I called that company. I said, my name is Captain Lee Levesque. I'm with the Bluffton Fire District. I do public speaking, blah, 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 blah. I'd like to know some things from your engineer who design and create these extinguishers. Could I talk to one, please? It took about a month and a half for someone to finally get to me. But I asked the question. I said, you made a fire extinguisher today. I have one that I bought at a big box store sitting on my desk right now. I said, the day it's made, how long does it sit in your warehouse before it ships to the retailer? He says, I'm sorry, sir, I don't know. I said, all right, I bought it again from a big box store. How long did it sit in their warehouse before they put it on the shelf for me to buy it? I'm not certain, sir. I said, all right, well, how long did it sit on that big retailer's shelf after it sat in your warehouse, their warehouse? How long did it sit on the shelf before it slid up to the front from all the ones before it that were purchased by others before I bought it? I don't know. I said, so conceivably, could that 3-year fire extinguisher, you're telling me and all the other consumers, it'll go 3 years. Can you tell me that it hasn't sat 3 years on somebody's shelf? Well, no, sir, we can't tell you that. So, folks, here's why I tell folks every year, serviced or replaced. I will tell you to service an extinguisher that can be serviced, and only if it has a metal top. This one does. If it has a metal top, it can be serviced. But if the top of it is plastic, it can't be serviced. So I say go buy a new one, $40 a year. You're going to spend $40 this week on that highfalutin coffee that my wife spends her hard money on. I don't understand. But $40 for a smoke alarm or two and a fire extinguisher. I will tell you, I bought 2 fire extinguishers for my home to replace the ones I had for a year. I think they were on sale for $14, $14.99 at a home improvement store. You wait for a sale and you buy a couple inexpensively. My point there is this: $40 a year in a collective of more than 45 years of firefighting between my father and I. Nobody's ever died in a home that had a working smoke alarm and extinguisher. I bet my family, my wife and 3 children's life on it, and I'm asking anybody that will listen to me to do the same, because what we've been doing in the past isn't working. I know that. The United States kills more people by fire than any other 2 nations on our planet. The state of South Carolina kills more people than any other state last year, in the top 5 every year. Something has to change. That is why I will tell you that on top of spending all day in a school with the kids, I will tell you 2 to 3 days a week I come into 4 or 5 different homes in Sun City and I put up smoke alarms. If they buy them, I'll come put them up. You know how much we charge for our services? Not a penny. Absolutely. I will also tell you, and this may get me in trouble, but I don't mind, and my chief says it's okay. There is some unscrupulous electricians running around Sun City taking advantage of folks that don't know any different. Let me educate you so you know different. You do not need an electrician to change out your smoke alarm. It's a plastic snap. The hardwired ones are a simple plastic snap that any person can do, and it's made that way purposely so you do not need an electrician. Don't pay $200 to change out 4 smoke alarms when you can pay at $5, $10, $15 a smoke alarm. You can pay $45 for smoke alarms. I'll come put them up for free. Well, you say that, but I'll tell you what, we have a great working relationship with Hardyville Fire Department that protects this area. And in the room next door, I can't tell you how many times the fire marshal of Hardyville and I have given similar presentations. Yes, they will come out too. And if they're busy, you know who they call for help? How you doing? If I'm busy, you know who I call for help? Hey guys, come on over and give me a hand, will you? I will tell you that, and it's funny you bring that up, Hardyville versus Beaufort and Jasper County. To you, it shouldn't make a difference. Yes, you pay taxes and they're different, but here's, as far as the service level goes, it doesn't make a difference. I will tell you that sometimes there's house fires here on the Jasper side, and the first in truck is a Beaufort County, says Bluffton on the side of it. Doesn't make a daggum bit of difference. Just means that the nearest truck in Hardyville was busy doing something somewhere else, so we came in and they're coming behind us. And I will tell you on the Beaufort side of Sun City, their trucks have been first in, and it doesn't make a daggum bit of difference. As long as you get help, that's what makes the difference. Yes, sir.
Couple of questions.
Please.
Number one, you say serviceable.
Absolutely.
At the local fire department?
No, unfortunately, they don't let us do that anymore. They told us we were stealing business from good quality businesses that do that for a living. A Google Yahoo search, Yellow Page search of fire extinguisher companies. I will tell you, South Carolina has one of the strictest regulated fire extinguisher regulations for companies to have that business license, so you can trust any of them that are listed, that have license, or that are licensed and insured. You can trust them to service your extinguishers.
And they're going to cost less than buying a new one?
No. And that was the next question. I'll be honest. That's why I buy the ones that are plastic. I buy the ones that are plastic, and I buy new ones every year, and I replace them with the old ones. And the reason being is that it might cost me, again, I think I spent $14.99 for 2 extinguishers. To have one that is metal serviced like this will cost anywhere from $30 to $50, depending upon who you go with. So to me, as a civil servant, not a millionaire, It's just more cost effective, but additionally, the old ones, how do we get rid of them? That's always the next question. Every year, I have 3 children and a wife. We have 5 extinguishers in my home. Do they collect or connect? Yes, they do. Every year we take those 5 extinguishers, we go out to the wood line, and we use them. We spray the materials out into the woods. So that everyone in my family, from my 12-year-old daughter all the way up to my, I won't tell you how old she is, but she's older than me, wife, we spray in a fire extinguisher and realize how to use one every year when there's no fire, no panic, no concern. So when it does happen and panic and concern set in, we've already used it. We know what we're doing. Yes, sir.
Maybe just had a recall on all the ones.
Absolutely. Fire extinguishers.
But they were sending you a free one.
Yep.
But like you said, it didn't tell you how long it sat in there when they.
That is true.
But I just got new ones in city.
And I also have a smoke alarm recall as well that just got put out yesterday by the Consumer Protection Division. They have what they call dual sensor smoke alarms that are recalled. If you look up at your smoke alarm and it has 2 little glass bulb lights on the bottom of it, those have been recalled. If it only has one, don't worry about it, you're in good shape. But if it is a KIDDE, K-I-D-D-E, and it has those 2 glass bulbs, call me, we'll come look at it and see if it's recalled. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, in the years past, go ahead. You may see it all. The smoke alarms, absolutely. Inside a fire extinguisher, in the past, we used to not be able to suggest folks go use it on, say, the wood line because it wasn't environmentally friendly. They have since changed in about the last, I'll say 5 to 10 years, they've changed their chemical compound that's in there. But you say what is in there, and the funny thing is it's not all the same. What do I mean? I will recommend that if you buy a fire extinguisher that it has 3 things, and this box shows it. Firefighters aren't smart, let's be honest. We run in when you're running out. That doesn't take a rocket science to figure out we're going in the wrong direction, but we do. I say that because A, B, and C, there are different classification or causes of fire. Different things burn different ways. So as simplified firefighters, we give them letters. We already know our alphabet, so that's kind of one of the criteria to be a firefighter. But anyway, so Class A fires is normal paper and wood. Class B fires, cooking oils or greases, gasoline, fluids that burn. Class C is electrical stuff. A, B, C. Those are the 3 top causes of fire in your home. Wood and paper, cooking, and electrical. This extinguisher has the chemical inside that is safe to use on all of them. For example, a Class A alone extinguisher would just have water and air pressure in it. You want to put water on top of the stove when you're cooking oil? Spreads the fire. This is good for all 3 of those fires. So I recommend 5 letters when you buy a fire extinguisher. A, B, C, and UL. UL is an independent company that doesn't cost you a thing, but what they do is companies will pay the United Laboratories, UL is what they call it, and it's here somewhere, there it is. They will check to make sure that it's going to work the way that this company says it's supposed to work. The companies pay them to put that on there because if you see the UL, you know it's a quality product. Anything electrical or safety oriented can have a UL stamp. 5 letters, ABC and UL. Doesn't matter the color, the shape, the size, you get what's comfortable and right for you. Now, having said that, where do we want to see these? We recommend 2 fire extinguishers per home. Now, I purposely I'm throwing business cards all over. I purposely, and it's been in my phone since I've been giving presentations or since I've had this phone. Let me pull it up for you. Would you be my helper? I'm going to be psychic. Psychic, sorry, I knew that. I was just picking. All right, don't say what you see there. Okay. How many of you have fire extinguishers in your home? Outstanding. Who's brave enough to tell me where it is? Where's yours?
Under the kitchen sink.
Wow, it didn't take but one person. What's it say on that phone in bold and underlined, dear?
Under the sink.
Most people in America have their fire extinguishers under the sink. Here's why that's not so much of a good idea. Right room, wrong place. I say that because they did a study, the American Psychological Association, who certifies doctors to be psychologists and tell us we're all bat stuff crazy. I read a certified paper that they had released to the public, and it said the top 5 reasons people ignore fire. So realistically, what the article was what are the top 5 things that went through someone's mind when the smoke alarm goes off? Is pretty much how they break it down. Anyone take a stab at what number 1 was? Is it real? First thing that went through someone's mind when a smoke alarm, a device that tells them that their life is in jeopardy, the first thing that went through their mind was, is it real? Is it real? Number 2, what do I do? Number 3, where are my loved ones or my pets? Number 4, where are my keys? Number 5, who do I call? Anybody said get out? Has anybody said I have a fire extinguisher, it's under the sink, I have to open the cabinet door, I have to move the chemicals, because you store chemicals like bleach and cleaners under there too, don't you? Look, I told you I'm psychotic. I mean psychic. You move the chemicals out of the way. By the way, I'm in 7th step now. 8th step, I've got to grab the fire extinguisher. 9th step, how the heck do I use this? 10th step, pull the pin, aim at the fire, squeeze it. Way past the 5 things that went through someone's mind. So to put it under the sink allows us to ignore it, just as we have trained ourselves to ignore the alarm and ask the question, is it real? What do I mean? Here's the example I often give. I love talking to kids and families, and spent some time in a school, gosh, it's been a number of years, but about 2 weeks after I'd spoken to little Johnny, I can't remember the little boy's name, forgive me. About 2 weeks later, I'm in civilian clothes, nothing says fire department, although my mustache, absolutely, people recognize that a mile away. I'm in Walmart with my family. This little boy from the other end of the aisle goes, "Firefighter Lee!" And he runs up the aisle and he wraps himself around my leg. Now, I got to tell you, that makes me feel like $1 million. But about that time, Grandma come around the end of the aisle with him, and she gave me that pedophile look, like, what the heck is going on? Well, little Johnny says, Grandma, this is Firefighter Lee, and he came to my school, and he told me what to do when the puppy dog smoke detector goes off. It was awesome, Grandma. And about that time, that beautiful woman started to cry. Now, folks, I'm 6'6", 300 pounds. You've never seen an ugly man cry, but I'm here to tell you, in the middle of Walmart, I was crying like a baby. I said, "Ma'am, are you okay? Do you need an ambulance?" She says, "No, but Firefighter Lee, I need to apologize to you," as tears are streaming down her face. And she says, "And I want to do it in front of Johnny." I said, "Well, ma'am, I am not certain I have the whole story. Could you fill a fella in?" She says, "Well, it was just the other day that Johnny was at my house. I was cooking." She goes, "And the older I get, the more I forget that I'm cooking." She says, "So I burned some stuff. I set off the smoke alarm." She says, "I do it all the time." She says, "I took my tea towel and I waved it and reset the smoke alarm, and I went back to cooking. In fact, I had to start cooking all over again for Johnny and I because I really burned it that time." She goes, "But a few moments later, I realized that I didn't hear Johnny." When kids are quiet, what do? We go looking for him. Now the tears are getting big in her eyes. I mean, they're getting heavy, and I'm just feeling like a bag of dirty people, just not a good man. I'm like, "Ma'am, I really feel bad. Why are you crying?" And she says, "Well, I went in the bedroom to look for Johnny where he stays, and he was climbing back in the window." She says, "And I grabbed him by his head of hair, I yanked him in the house, and I spanked his butt and told him, 'Don't you ever go in or out that window. That's not what it is for.'" And now she's crying, and I'm crying, and my wife comes around the corner thinking something's really wrong. And she says, "Firefighter Lee, you were right. Johnny got out that window because you told him to when the smoke alarm went off, and I didn't know that." She says, "I do now." And she looks at Johnny, she says, "Johnny, Firefighter Lee was right and Grandma was wrong." Now, she invited me back to the house. I took the fire truck, and we did some more stuff with her and Johnny, and we got past all that. But folks, that's what we fight every day. That is why the United States kills more people in their own home where they're supposed to be the safest by fire than any 2 nations on our planet. That is why South Carolina kills more people in their homes where they're supposed to be the safest than any other state in the United States. Smoke alarms that don't work, or if they do work, we ignore the snot out of them. We train our kids out of it. We put fire extinguishers under the sink where we won't even begin to think that they're there. That's why we kill people. And that goes back to my original statement. We need your help. We need 2 fire extinguishers in every home, one in the kitchen, but somewhere visible. Now, here's the rest of the story. I bought exactly this fire extinguisher for my home, and we just bought a new home in here in Bluffton back in December. Conversation went a little like this. I had this big red fire extinguisher, and I walked into the kitchen. I said, "Baby, I'm going to put this extinguisher right here by the door, furthest away from the stove, because cooking's the #1 cause of fire. And I want to know that if we have to use the extinguisher, the fire will be in front of us and our exit will be behind us. I'm going to mount it right there." If you've ever met my wife, I'm a Yankee from New York. Don't hold it against me, but I met a Southern belle. In fact, 22 years ago today, she said, "I do." And she pretty much showed me her Southern ways that day. She says, "There's no way in God's green earth you're putting that ugly thing right in the middle of my wine motif." Fellas, that's decor. Wine decor motif. Work with me. Wine motif kitchen, you're not putting that thing on my wall. I said, "Well, honey, I can't talk to thousands, literally thousands of people a year and be a hypocrite. I can't do that. We're going to have to find a compromise." She says, "No." Well, I was beaten that day, but my mother-in-law overheard that conversation as she was helping us move in the house. She says, "Hey, y'all, I have the solution." Now, I mind you, I'm not a big fan of my mother-in-law. Don't tell her I said this. I gave her great praise that day. She says, I knit. I said, okay, I'm not really following the rest of the story here. She says, that's fine. There's wine decor. She says, I'll knit you a wine bottle cover to fit over your fire extinguisher so that it blends in with the decor. Folks, guess who went shopping with a wine bottle cover to find a fire extinguisher that fit into a crocheted wine bottle cover? This guy. Because I now have a fire extinguisher that looks like a wine bottle on my kitchen wall. I tell you that, yes, that is my life. Laugh at me, it's fine. But I tell you that because there is a compromise to make sure that we are doing the right thing and not going to be number one ever again. And that's what I need your help to make sure the fire extinguisher is mounted where it should be so every day you walk by it. And the one time somebody has knocked it off the wall or moved it, because it's been there to the point where it blends into your psyche, you've forgotten it's there, but it's always there. And the one day it's not, you're going to go, hey, where's my fire extinguisher? That way you don't have to remember it's under the sink at the time of panic when a fire occurs. The second place I want to have one in your house is in your bedroom, especially for those over 55. Anybody fit that category? All right, I didn't think so. But just when you get to that point, folks, here's the thing. We know that over 55 in the United States, you're 2.8 times more likely to die by fire than any other of this population that we have. 2.8 times more likely. Because we don't move as quick when we get that old. We don't think as quick. Let's be honest. Some of the stuff goes away, and I don't mean to be disrespectful. That's not what I'm doing. I'm being honest. Because I pulled way too many folks, young and old, out of burning buildings in 29 years on the job. I don't want to pull another one, period. The only way I know to do that is to be honest. And we've got to be honest, at over 55, we've got to make a plan for the ugliness to happen. When the fire happens, we've already got to have the ideas in our head. And I want a fire extinguisher in your bedroom, and I want your door closed. You ever wonder why in every one of your houses you have a fire extinguisher, a smoke alarm inside your bedroom and 5 feet outside the door in the hallway? If you never noticed, when you get home today, notice. I can tell you have a smoke alarm in every bedroom and right outside every bedroom. There's a reason for that. You're supposed to sleep with your door closed because a fire can't move through a closed door. Even the lightest weight built door, which we know to be in our profession as a bathroom door to a single wide mobile home, that door, as hollow and as lightweight as it is, can hold fire on one side versus the other from that fire going through that door for at least 15 minutes. Anything thicker than that, it gets more and more time. The point is sleep with your door closed. If it's closed and it sets off the smoke alarm outside in the hallway, the one in the bedroom will go off because they're all connected. Did you know that? Which leads me to another side note. You ever have a chirp in your home and you know it's a smoke alarm, got to change battery, right? And you change the battery in that one because that one's making the noise, but dadgummit, it still chirps. Here's the rule. Change one battery, change them all. You each all live in a home that was built since 1999. It's required to have hardwired smoke alarms that still need batteries. But they're hardwired and they're connected. One goes off, they all go off. Bad news for that is when one battery goes dead, say in your living room, it might chirp in your bedroom. So you change this one, but the bloody thing still chirps. So we say, change one battery, change them all. I promise you'll be able to sleep the rest of the night. And I know they don't go off until 2 and 4 in the morning. There's a science behind that. You know that. Why?
My daughter's house.
You know why that is? A battery is temperature sensitive. When is it the coolest in your house? Middle of the summer, middle of the winter, it's the coolest between 2 and 4 p.m. And when it gets cool, the battery has the highest draw, and that's when it's going to notice itself as weak and it's going to start chirping. Then as your house warms up, when the sun comes up, it stops chirping. 2 to 4 in the morning. So the point being is, every year, mark on your calendar, the same day, change the batteries, all the batteries at one time. Make sense? Least expensive life insurance policy you can buy, folks. Now you guys are staying connected, which means you're in and out of everybody else's home. Would you share this information with everybody you see? Let them know about the 10-year expectancy, life expectancy of a smoke alarm. Let them know there's somebody who's willing to come free of charge and put new alarms in. Now I will tell you, in Sun City, we're very well aware, if I might have that sometimes there are folks that amongst our communities that have a decision every week or every month to pay for food, pay for electricity, or God forbid we throw in pay for a smoke alarm. Well, if they have those choices, you're aware of them, or if you're one of them, by the love of Peter, Paul, and Mary, buy your bloody food, your medication. Don't worry about smoke alarms. Call us. We'll take care of business. But if you have the wherewithal to pay for it, or if those that you're helping have the wherewithal to spend $15 on a smoke alarm, even if it's one every couple of weeks, I've been to a house 19 times in Sun City to make sure all their smoke alarms work. For the first few times, they couldn't get the right alarms that would fit in their home. The second few times, they couldn't afford all of them at one time, so I did one here and I did one there, and I didn't mind at all. In fact, those are good friends of mine. We bump into each other all the time in Sun City. Happy to do it. Because the more time I and my friends and colleagues spend doing stuff like this, the less time we're going to spend having to pull bodies out of burning buildings. And the more we can affect change in our state and surely right here in our community. Last year in Beaufort County, we lost 4 people. Unfortunately, 21 years old, and the other 3 were below 10. Not old, but we bucked the trend last year. The year before, we lost 9, all of them over 62 years old. I don't know why the difference one year to the next other than circumstance, but I do know not one of the houses where we lost anybody in Beaufort County in the last 2 years had a single working smoke alarm, and not one of them had a fire extinguisher. I can't stress it enough, folks. When you're out and about, share our word, share my name, my number, tell the folks to stop by the fire department. I don't know what else to say other than please help us. It is critical for us to make a change, and we need you to change with us and to help us affect that change. And if you'll help us, I promise the dividends is a far safer community from absolutely one of the worst ways to pass. Can we agree? So with that, I know there are many more questions. I'm going to do that because I don't want to take too much of your time, but any questions that I haven't alluded to or broached, anything that you can think of? Start here and I'll come to you. Yes, sir.
Bernie had mentioned earlier that he got smoke alarm and it did not fit. The plugs were wrong.
Absolutely.
So it's not standard.
No, the unfortunate truth is, in fact, you can't even buy nowadays a smoke alarm. A new smoke alarm doesn't have, I was mentioning earlier, the plastic plug. They're great. Problem is those plugs hanging out of the ceiling are 10 years old and they have different patterns. And just the difference between a Porsche and a Yugo, right? They're both cars, both have 4 wheels, you can ride in them, but they're drastically different. 10 years ago, the wires coming out fit the 10-year ago smoke alarms. The new ones today, depending upon which kind you buy, have different patterns of the plug in the back of the alarm. Some are a triangle, some are a circle, some have 2-to-1, and then there's one manufacturer that's trying to get with the other one. They have a 2-to-1, but their one is just half an inch closer to the other one. So it causes great headache for the homeowners when they're buying new ones. Twofold. First and foremost, you can buy smoke alarms at Ace Hardware, Home Depot, and Lowe's that all have adapters. So you buy that alarm, about $15.99 each package, and inside that package, and on the outside it says has adapters included, that new alarm will absolutely adapt and plug into yours. The other options you have is you can buy individually the adapters separate, or take an old smoke alarm with you when you go shopping. Pull out the new one, open a package, and see if they fit. Now understand, I'll caution you, the 2-to-1, 2 on one side, 1 on the other. They're very hard to tell the difference. I will tell you in Sun City, they're predominantly what we call the large 2-to-1, the bigger gap. And unfortunately, many of the new ones being sold with the 2-to-1 gap is the smaller gap, which won't fit in Sun City. But again, if you get one with the adapters, I recommend that those that you are helping get the ones with the adapters, we can make it work without an electrician.
Why do they need batteries?
Great reason, great question. Do you remember when the 2 hurricanes came through here recently? I don't know if Sun City lost power, but both of my neighborhoods did. And there was a lot of people in their homes without power, but those smoke alarms were still working. Really still working. When we lose power, we still want you protected, because what do people do when we lose power? What do they use for light? God, that scares the snot out of me. I really want you to have smoke alarms when you use those candles. Can we agree? Outstanding. And you had a question, sir.
Well, I guess I was looking at that smoke alarm. I know I've got several in homes in another state that don't have electrical hookups. Now one looks like one of them. That does have an electrical hookup?
Nope, this one is what we call a 10-year sealed battery. You put this up, you never have to even worry about it. It doesn't plug in. This is what we put in anybody, the less fortunate homes that call us for smoke alarms. We can't buy the ones with grant monies that plug in. They won't let us. They figure if you have a home that can plug in, you should be able to afford yours. Again, if you have a choice of other things, medicine, food, call me. I'll get the ones to plug in if that need be. We'll make it work.
Older homes too don't have even the electrical.
Older homes before 1999 that don't have that wiring, these are great. 10-year sealed battery. You never even have to change the battery in this. You put it up until 10 years later, you replace the whole bloody alarm. Also, and I'm glad you bring that up, the hardwired ones that do have batteries, and this is another place where I get in trouble, and I'm glad to be recorded, so you share with everybody you know. There's folks that will tell you don't buy the 10-year lithium batteries. They sell a 10-year 9-volt battery specifically designed to go in a smoke alarm so you never have to change the battery. There are many people in the world, including some firefighters, that say don't buy those for the smoke alarms. I say buy them. I'll tell you why they say don't buy them. A traditional battery in a smoke alarm has what they call a long life, low battery cycle. I apologize for boring you with scientific yuck, but here's the deal. The smoke alarm battery, as it goes dead, can chirp that smoke alarm for almost a week to tell you it's low on battery. The difference between a regular battery and a lithium ion is a lithium ion battery, the 10-year batteries, are what they call high cycle. They have a lot of power in them, but their low battery cycle is very brief. So there's a potential that you could not know that the battery in that alarm is dead because you were gone that week, and for the 30 minutes that it chirped, you weren't even near the house, so now you come home thinking that it's good, but it hasn't chirped. So the key is, if you put those 10-year batteries in there, you've got to write on the side of it when it needs to be replaced. So that if you sell your home and move, that the next person can look up and say, okay, March 23rd, 2018, they put a new battery in. Well, now it's March 23rd, 2028, I need to change the battery. It's all about whether or not it will warn you and whether your home and the gambit likelihood of it warning you with a high battery is very low. You won't hear it. So again, just make the extra date on your calendar or write on the side of the smoke alarm. Other questions, thoughts, ideas, accusations? Anything. It doesn't have to be home fire safety, anything about our fire district. Yes, sir.
Well, I got all those numbers you gave us before.
Sure.
Dying per capita, right?
Yes, sir, they were.
Okay. Any idea why the United States is 2-to-1? We've got more junk furniture than the rest of the places?
No, actually, I'll tell you, we have
More smokers in Europe.
We have more low-income housing, and that plays well into South Carolina. South Carolina, while being some of the best beaches, we also have the most mobile home communities in the United States. Now, I'm not cursing mobile homes, not saying that at all. Nothing wrong with those homes. The problem is they last too long, and as they last longer, they deteriorate. And when a fire burns inside a mobile home, it's all metal. So imagine a metal box and stuff burning inside of it, and you're inside that metal box. With a wooden house as such, the heat can escape through gaps in the wood. The metal radiates the heat back inside. And if you're inside there, you think 30 seconds is a long time. Don't even begin to think how long it takes a fire to kill people in a mobile home. Again, not speaking ill of those homes. They absolutely serve an amazing service to those that can afford that, and that's it. Awesome. But there's extra steps for those folks that we work with them to take to make sure they're safe in those homes. Yes, sir.
Going, okay.
I had some CERT training.
Yes, sir.
Come out and with the fire extinguisher, and he gave us a size of a fire or situation there.
Absolutely.
Where you should look at if it's over that, don't even bother, just get out.
Absolutely.
What is there a rule on that or something?
Yes and no. Some firefighters and others in my field that will teach as I do in the public will say if a fire is X number of square feet, here's what I've found. And again, I speak no ill of anybody because that's not what I do, but I do know in the United States our average comprehension level, meaning most newspapers, are written to the 7th grade comprehension level. So if I stand before a group that I don't know how much education, if any, you've had, I don't know your background or your understanding, and I start using $20 words when 5-cent words will work, we confuse people. So when we talk square footage and stuff, that's great. Some people like to make themselves feel good, not me. Here's what I say. If you're using or you're comfortable using an extinguisher to fight a fire, great. If the smoke causes your eyes to sweat or bleed, listen to me, God forbid. If it causes them to burn, thank you, or to cry, get the heck out. If you cough more than twice, get the heck out. Those can be understood by most everybody. I'm not worried about the size of the fire. If you're using the extinguisher, you're making good progress, it looks like the fire's getting smaller, keep going. If you can't breathe or you can't see, get the heck out. That's what we get paid for. Make sense? And I apologize for making it simple, but again, I don't want to use $25 words when 5-cent explanation works for most everybody. Great question, sir.
I have a motor, it's about 26 feet long, and they put the smoke detector over the exit. You gotta go down the stairs.
Yes, sir.
It's over that door. Unfortunately, the stove is right next to the stairs. So, the smoke detector goes on
Every time you cook.
just about. Where should I locate it to?
I might suggest cooking lessons. But beyond that, no, I joke, I'm sorry.
There's a thing that pulls up.
Yes, sir. The hood and
The toaster on it. The toaster sets it.
absolutely. I'll tell you twofold. One is likely what you've got is what they call a heat detector. There's a difference between a smoke detector and a heat detector. And the reason I say if you're setting it off with your smoke or with your toaster and it's not burning toast, it's just setting the heat up there, it's a heat detector. But yes, move it. I will tell you in a home or even in a mobile home, in a boat, we never want to see a smoke alarm in the kitchen or in a bedroom. Or excuse me, a bathroom, forgive me. We do want them in the bedroom. Not the kitchen or the bath. The kitchen, because of cooking, we train ourselves to ignore it. Number one thing is it real? And in the bathroom, because steam can set it off just the same. Don't put them anywhere near those two rooms. Move the alarm somewhere that it will suit you better, be it in the front towards the driver's seat and one in the back near the bedroom. Those two spaces will serve you well, I think.
Does it matter if it's a cab over?
No. The smoke rises to the ceiling regardless of what shape, color, or size the vehicle or house you're in. So we like to see the smoke alarms on top in the center of a room as best we can. Ladies, I appreciate, and maybe some gentlemen too, the aesthetics that it takes away from. I get that. But I don't know about you. I'm not so worried about how it looks so much as I know it's going to protect us and keep us alive. It's food for thought. Sir.
Keep all indoor doors closed at night.
Absolutely. I will tell you the last thing I do besides turn the lights out outside is I go through our house and I close all our doors. When I leave in the morning, when my wife and I go to school, or she goes to school and I go to work, I close the doors. Because if a fire starts, it can be contained in a room and burn itself out simply because the doors are closed, thus not burning through the rest of the house. I can't tell you, doors, besides being nice to give you privacy, they stop fire dead in its tracks. It's called compartmentalization. It keeps it in the compartment it started in because it can't get out. It's amazing. Doors closed is one of the greatest things you can do to stop the spread or even in some cases the start of fire. Absolutely. You guys rock good questions.
How long does it take to empty that?
It depends on the shape, color, and size. In fact, this one here will probably run you in the ballpark of 2 to 3 minutes, a good solid just holding it. But I will caution you, don't just hold, if you're using an extinguisher, don't just hold it down. Burst. Give it a 2-second burst, stop, see what's happening. Is the fire spreading? Is it moving? Is it getting better for us? Is it getting worse? Do I need to change tactics? Burst again, what's happening? Does that make sense? So it's all in use. Now, having said that, I'm happy to come back out and train anybody in staying connected or anybody. We have a live fire trainer. I'll pull up out here. It's propane driven. We big flames and let you go fight a fire with a fire extinguisher. Happy to do that another day.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Absolutely. Happy to do it. Yes.
Many people do have them in there, they've never used them, they've never had them.
And that goes back to lend more credence to the every year change or replace your extinguisher, because if you can go out and use it every year, then you're using it. And you get familiar with how they work. I will tell you, I teach fire extinguisher training to hospitals. They're required by law. Doctors, the biggest doctor in the place, all the way down to the newest nurse and orderly has to learn. And I'll tell you one particular doctor, I won't tell you his name because I love the guy to death, but every year he comes out, he's like, Lee, I got patience, I got no time for this, just let me have the extinguisher, I'm going to go fight the fire. And every year he screws up. Every bloody year. And I'm telling you, 15 years now. I'm a horrible instructor, that's what I'm telling you. No, he doesn't pay attention. And most often the common thing he forgets, when we squeeze the handle on any fire extinguisher, it's going to make a loud noise, be it a pop or a hiss. And people think it's broken, they're scared, and they drop it. Doc, slow down, buddy. It's supposed to make that noise. But you don't know that until you come use an extinguisher. That's why I say, use your old extinguishers out in the backyard, spray them out, then they can go in the garbage as long as there's no pressure. Normal garbage, I've already talked to garbage folks. They will take them as long as there's no pressure on it. Same with smoke alarms. Take the battery out, push the button. You'll find that smoke alarms will chirp and make noise and activate without a battery and without being plugged in. They keep a reserve of power inside them. Where that becomes very critical is you're going to put it in a garbage can. It's going to take a couple of days for the garbage to come pick it up, and the thing's going to chirp all night long. So as I say, take the battery out, push the button, and bleed it dead. Then put it in the garbage. Great questions. You guys, this is awesome.
Is there a type of fire extinguisher? Well, if I point that too close to a grease fire, will I set the house, the wall on fire?
You shouldn't. You shouldn't. By design, they're intended, particularly an ABC extinguisher, to cover it. Now, a lot of story and boring you with gory details. Fire is simply three things. We call it the fire triangle. It's heat, fuel, and oxygen. You put the fire out by removing either the heat, the fuel, or the oxygen. And when you use water, we use water because it cools, it takes away the heat, makes the fire go out. When you use a chemical extinguisher such as an ABC extinguisher, what it does is it twofolds. It cools, the chemical in helps cool, and it also smothers the oxygen out of it. Now, having said that, be careful not to inhale a whole lot of the chemicals that come out of a fire extinguisher. Make for a rough day. But having said that, no, it should not be an issue. It's kind of like throwing baking soda. Your mom ever teach you? I know my mom taught me to use baking soda on a grease fire because back then she couldn't afford fire extinguishers, she said. So, again, great questions. It's all about just being familiar with what you have and knowing how to use it. And ultimately, if it doesn't work, maybe it does spread the fire. I can't think of a reason it would, but if it did, just get the heck out. Make sure we're coming.
I worked at a garage where we set some gasoline on fire, oil can.
Burn off waste.
No, it was a demonstration of the fire.
Oh, there you go, yep.
And he sprayed it off the other side.
Using water. We have fire extinguishers that only have water, or some of them have different types that aren't. We've seen A and C fire extinguishers, not A, B, and C. B being the chemical flammable liquids. Absolutely, and that goes to the credence of A, B, and C. Got to have one of all three. Absolutely, absolutely. Great stuff.